Hey there, it's Matt from Technovangelist. Thanks so much for joining me again. Today, talking about Sunday, the 6th of May. This is the Technovangelist vlog. And usually I talk about things that I learned. This time, I guess I learned something, but this time I want to talk about a book that I just finished reading. It's called Streampunks, YouTube and the Rebels Remaking Media. Pretty interesting read. Not amazing literature, but definitely a worthwhile read. And so I thought I'd tell you a little bit about this book. By the way, this is the second time I've recorded this video. Everything worked great with the first video and everything was perfect. I even uploaded it to YouTube, and then I started to watch it in full screen, and on the little screen it looked great. On full screen I noticed there's this piece of orange kind of like floating right there. It was not once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. So time to redo this video. So Streampunks. It's a book by a guy named Robert Kyncl. He's the chief business officer over at YouTube and a former vice president of content at Netflix. Pretty interesting guy. He talks a little bit about his background at the beginning and then just all over the book as well. Grew up in communist Czechoslovakia, and he's actually the same age as me. We were born in the same year, 1970. Talks a little bit about life in Soviet-controlled Czechoslovakia. And he's one of the lucky people to be able to attend that first big Guns N' Roses concert that any of us who are, our age will have known about. He's older than most folks who spend a lot of time creating and watching, but then so am I. So this book is really, you shouldn't think of this book as a how-to menu, how to be successful on YouTube, because this is not what that is. This is a look at a dozen, maybe more, maybe 20 creators on YouTube. They're really big creators on YouTube. And what's their story? What's their background? And although there are 12, 15, 20 creators listed, I've never heard of any of them. Well, that's not true. I've heard of two. I've heard of Casey Neistat. Anyway, I've heard of him, and I've heard of Jack Conte. He's the CEO, founder of Patreon. But everyone else that it mentioned, this swoozy character and Superwoman and all these other creators, I don't know, all these other people, I've never heard of. I spent a bit of time on YouTube, and I've never heard of these people, which is amazing that a platform can have so many creators, and many of them, in the top 100 that I've never paid attention to, and yet they're getting enough of the audience to be able to make a living off of this stuff. But again, an important thing to note is just because you're there doesn't mean you're going to make a dime, and there are plenty of people who are not making anything. But let's go back to the book. Regarding Jack Conte, really the only reason I've heard of Jack Conte is, yes, I've heard of Patreon, but I never knew who was behind it. I only heard about him in the last few weeks from this amazing video that he did just a few weeks ago. You got to see this video. If you haven't seen this video, you got to see it, because it is inspiring. It's an inspiring video. He is able to tell this amazing story of how he wants to speak with Casey Neistat about his new venture. And it is a spectacular video. But one thing that's covered throughout this book is something that's referred to as the Mad Men Gap, in reference to a very popular show a few years ago. Now, some YouTubers can have videos that get 10 times the views of really popular shows like Mad Men in the past, or whatever today's most popular shows are. They can get 10 times the views on a regular basis. But TV episodes, TV shows, the newest shows still get 10 times the ad revenue, which is interesting. We're all as YouTube viewers, we're all seeing more and more and more ads, and I guess that's a little annoying, but the money has to come from somewhere, and somebody has to be paying the bills. But still, more money goes towards advertising on mainstream media than it does to YouTube. The book also talks about the role of YouTube around the world through various international events, Arab Spring and more. And it also talks about individuals. It talks about their individual stories that are really interesting. There's this one bit about Jenny Doan, who started a company called the Missouri Star Quilt Company. Yeah, this book about Streampunks, about about young people, about 20-somethings, 30-somethings creating a career on YouTube, and we're learning about this 59-year-old woman named Jenny Doan and her son Al in Hamilton, Missouri. And I've never heard of her, but when I asked my wife about Missouri Star Quilt Company, she said, "Oh yeah, I know about Missouri Star Quilt Company. They're amazing." They are the world's largest supplier of fabric for certain types of fabric, which is pretty amazing because they started in 1996. And when it started, her son Al said, "Hey, you should make some of these tutorials on YouTube." And I said, "What's YouTube?" So she started making tutorials, and she's made a few hundred tutorials, and they are what started this company. She had this amazing product, these quilts that she's making, but she also taught so many people around the world about how to make quilts, how to be a maker in your own way. And the town that they were in, Hamilton, Missouri, you look at a Google Maps, a street view of Hamilton 20 years ago, and it's a ghost town. There's nothing going on there. But you look at it today, and there's new construction going on because it's all in support of the Missouri Star Quilt Company. There are thousands of people coming to Hamilton, Missouri every day just to meet Jenny and her son Al. These are superstars, and they were able to get to where they are with YouTube. It's not just YouTube. They have this amazing product, but YouTube helps support that product. So that's pretty amazing. It also goes into a lot of detail about Casey Neistat. Now, I knew a little bit about Casey, but I see that he's super successful on YouTube, but I knew he had some history before YouTube. And it turns out he had a show on HBO before YouTube. He was nominated for an Emmy before YouTube, and he had a viral video, 6 million views or so, before YouTube, all about him trying to replace an iPod battery. It also talks about Vice and Vice News and how they tried for so long to be taken seriously, and now they are. And a lot of their history, a lot of their success goes to YouTube and what they did on YouTube and HBO as well. But YouTube is an important part of Vice's story. Now, if you want to know more about Vice, one thing I recommend is checking out a podcast called How I Built This. It's on NPR. And this episode was from September 2017. They did an interview with Suroosh Alvi, who was one of the founders of Vice. Started out as a Voice of Montreal, but a certain newspaper in New York City might not like that. So they are now called Vice, and yeah, it's a really interesting story. So check out that How I Built This. By the way, How I Built This is this amazing podcast on NPR. You learn also. Who'd have thunk that I'd be interested in the founding of the company Spanx and of yogurt companies and of all sorts of things that I wouldn't normally care about, but it's really interesting learning about how people start their companies, Rent the Runway, and all sorts of other Burton snowboards, and just it's an amazing series. Definitely check out How I Built This. Now, it's interesting that the first viral video on YouTube was a Nike ad from with Ronaldinho. He's a really big soccer superstar in, I'm not sure whether it's Latin America or Europe. But in this ad, what kind of follows on the footsteps of Apple's 1984 ad, which was spectacular, and the series of ads created by BMW called The Hire with Clive Owen. Back when Clive Owen was, I'd never heard of Clive Owen, but he started in this series, and his career went from there. I every time I see him, I think of The Hire, because The Hire was this magical series. I remember downloading every episode of The Hire and having it on my laptop and watching it over and over and over again. They were just addictive. I needed to see more. I wish that The Hire did more. My view of BMW was probably created because of that series, and I would love to see BMW restart that series. It was so incredible. Again, Streampunks, not a manual for how to do YouTube. It is a look at some YouTubers who have been really successful. It's a look at the platform's place in history. I'd say it's definitely a worthwhile read. Pick it up from your local library. That's what I did. I got it from the Boston Public Library. And it's a great read. Again, not fabulous literature, but that's not what this is for. This is a nice history of YouTube and creators on YouTube, and really a lot of fun. And that's all. So thanks so much for watching this fourth installment of the Technoevangelist vlog. And I'm going to do another one tomorrow, probably from, where will I be? I'll be in Plano, Texas for Saturn Conference. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.